Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy, and you're listening to my podcast, Vox&Hops, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians and talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. It's coming up next week, the Vox&Hops one-year anniversary party with the very special guest, Lord Worm, the original vocalist of Cryptopsy, will be there, and I will be conducting the very first live Vox&Hops interview. All of this is happening on October 26th at Turbo House on St. Denis Street in Montreal. I have also, for the event, I have made the very first Vox&Hops branded glassware. It is a 9-ounce tasting glass, the exact style of craft beer glass I like to use when I am at home drinking craft beer. To go with the glass at the party, I have also brewed a collaborative brew alongside the great people of Microbrasserie Le Fermentor from l'Assomption, Quebec. We got together and we brewed a hoppy New England IPA that we have called the Highway to Hops. In the description of the podcast is a link where you can order your ticket right now. And with the ticket, you get entrance into the party. You get the 9-ounce Vox&Hops branded glassware, and you get one free serving of Highway to Hops. I hope that you guys had a great week. I had a super great week. Last weekend was super busy. I got a whole bunch of interviews conducted, and I'm super excited to get those out to you guys. Today on the podcast, I am with Jason Kaiser, the vocalist of Origin. Here it is, Vox&Hops, episode number 78.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Today I'm with Jason Kaiser, the singer of Origin.
That was a good pronunciation.
Well, the vocalist of Origin.
Also the singer of Origin, I think.
And every other band that needs a vocalist.
I'm a scab for hire. If you need a guy to learn your set in less than 10 hours and get on a plane and go to Europe and finish out a tour, I can do that. I've done that this year. So.
I know. I wanted to talk exactly about that. Let's start with that. What was What was that band?
That was Hollow World from Melbourne, Australia.
What is it with you and the Aussies?
That's the whole reason So what happened was, it was about a Thursday night. I hadn't been drinking that much that month or a couple of months, and that was like the one night I was like, I'm going to have a few and enjoy myself. And Thursday night, I got a message from Dave Haley, because it was Psychroptic and this band Aversion's Crown, also from Australia, headlining with this band Hadelmaw, also from Australia, and Hollow World as support. And apparently the Hollow World dudes, just for reasons I probably shouldn't publicly talk about, their singer had to go home, but it was only about like 6 days into the run. So, and they didn't want to leave. It was one of their first European tours, and Dave Haley just hit me up on a Tuesday night, like, hey, what are you doing for the next couple of weeks? You want to just do this tour tomorrow of this band you've never heard before or anything like that? And since I was a little drunk, I was like, sure, I could totally pull that off. Woke up in the morning, was just like, I think I have to go to Europe today. And I absolutely 2:00 that afternoon, I was on a plane to Paris, learned the set basically on the plane, and it didn't go that bad. It was pretty nice.
But how do you go about doing that? I have a hard time memorizing stuff. How do you do that? What steps do you take?
I mean, usually, as the introduction of this podcast brought up, I've scabbed for a couple of bands, and you have to learn 24 songs, or over time you have to learn X amount of songs, and usually it takes about a day for me to learn a song. If I get drunk, learn commit it, just focus on it as I'm drinking. The drunken recall kicks in. I wake up in the morning, I'll go to bed
not remembering the song.
I'll be like, I dogged this. I can't remember shit. Fuck. Wake up in the morning, be like, in my head as I'm taking a shower or whatever, be like, oh yeah, I got the entire thing. It just comes right back.
So you're just really good at it?
No, I don't think I'm good. I wouldn't say I'm good at it. It's just, I just found what works for me, I guess. But for that one, I literally just had to sit on the plane and just listen. It was 6 songs, but 30-minute set that I just had to, and I'm a stickler for, enunciation and using the right words. I'm not just going to stumble
jargon
mouth
your way through it. Yeah.
And, I don't know. I was just forced my brain to do it, I guess.
It's good. It's awesome.
And it was they were happy. Everybody was happy, and
well, they got to keep touring with the vocalist.
Sure, yeah. And Dave, kudos to Dave for like helping me out. But it didn't go that bad.
Let's go back for people that don't really know what you do. What's your story? How did you become a death metal vocalist?
Oh, you want to go all the way back?
Yeah, you can skip some parts. Why did you start screaming?
Because I've never learned how to play an instrument.
But you always want to be a part of the band.
I guess I just wanted the path of least resistance from day one. It seems like a lot of work to learn how to play the guitar or drums, and a lot of money. Everybody's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear. I re-up my wireless microphone, which even that is kind of a luxury. Like once every 2 years, I'll get kind of a new one. But aside from that, it's just, and I also don't know how to actually sing like a professional vocalist or whatever. It's just, and that's the beautiful thing about death metal is it's something that you make your own, you cut your own path. Like nobody's going to judge you and be like, oh, that octave when you went wasn't correct. So
he was a bit flat.
Yeah, he was a bit flat in his squeal.
His C seventh minor was a bit flat.
So yeah, and my family, older brothers were into the same kind of stuff. So I guess if that's the way to pinpoint it, I think that would be where I stole their LPs back in the day in like the 80s from them, and that's where,
What drew you to it? The music, the artwork?
Probably a little bit of both. Yeah, it was just it just was it's like horror movies. It was just like a crazy, intense kind of thing that not everybody else was stoked on, so whatever made everybody else uncomfortable, I was super into. I think the first LP I stole from my brother Joe was Gwar Hello,
awesome.
And that was the first. Like everybody has like the first thing I heard was like Pantera or Iron Maiden in like '78, but no, the first Gwar album was what got me into doing metal to begin with, even though it was like punk rock back then.
Who would have been like your early vocal mentors? Not like inspirations,
sure.
Like people around you that
mentors.
taught you how to scream.
There's no mentors. Nobody. Do people teach you how to scream? Nobody ever taught me.
I have a few in my that have helped me out over the years. Yeah, but I'm the type of guy that likes to talk to other singers. Hence why I have a podcast.
I've been like fervently against the idea of like people teaching other people how to do death metal vocals.
It's just conversations. Yeah. Not actual lessons.
But like when people promote it, like on Facebook or whatever, you see people being like, for example,
I tried to do it. I know exactly what you're saying. I gave extreme vocal lessons,
and I
for a short while.
I'm not a big fan of that. I don't want to.
I was never good at having a follow-up lesson because I would do one and I'd be like,
"That's what you do.
Just do that."
Yeah, right. That's the whole point.
And that's why
you
it
find
never
your
continued.
own dirty, grimy voice, and you go with that. Nobody can tell you how to do it. Like, and that's the basic essence of like this kind of music to begin with. It's like an affront to things that can be conventionally taught in a school or whatever. So I don't know how I learned. I don't know what. My first band in high school was a band called Rebellious Sphincter, and we did the high school battle of the bands, and it was mostly anal cunt covers, to be honest, because nobody knew how to play instruments, and it was a complete nightmare. But we did play the battle of the bands, and we lost.
No. Today, we're going to be drinking Los Tabarnacos, which is a milkshake IPA from Brasserie du Bas Canada. It's a really delicious beer, so I'm excited to share it with you.
I'm excited to drink it. It sounds thick. Some professional pouring we just witnessed right here. I hope so. Milkshake IPA. I don't think I've ever had a milkshake IPA.
So they add lactose to it, and
Cheers.
Everybody listening at home, I'm a vegan, but I'm not a vegan when it comes to beer, because you can't have a beer podcast.
That is true. You got to...
And omit some beers. It doesn't work. Cheers.
Cheers.
It smells nice and creamy.
Oh.
It's smooth. It's delicious. Very, very, very creamy. Super drinkable. It's like pineapple, mango, a little apricot-y.
Yeah, it's super smooth. Like the thickness of it takes away any bite, but it's there.
Yeah. Clocks in at 6.5%, I believe, and it's wonderful. They're actually probably the closest Vermont-style brewery up here in Quebec, on the border of Ontario in Gatineau, Quebec, and they're really delivering the goods right now. Everyone's racing, trying to meet them right now.
I've always had you always have the problem as a touring musician where people, assume that just because you're playing in front of 100 people a night. They're like, oh, you get to see all the greatest stuff in all the world. You get to drink all the best beers, have the best food. And they're like, I get the shittiest stuff in every venue, that the cheapest, shittiest stuff that they can possibly give me. Have you ever had brand beer in the Netherlands? That red can, the can with the red logo?
I have had that before, yes.
You haven't drank the shittiest beer you possibly could drink until you have brand beer.
I personally hunt. I know where the good beer is, and I ask fans to bring them, but that takes work.
Right.
Yeah.
It's smart.
Are you a craft beer enthusiast?
And I mean, I exclusively drink craft beer, but I wouldn't be able to tell you the ins and outs and nuances of it. I wouldn't be able to argue about it with you.
I do know we've toured together before, and I've never seen you with a shitty beer in your hand, which makes me think that you do like craft beer.
I do.
What brings you towards the craft beer versus the natural lights?
Oh, man, I don't know. I don't like drinking water, I guess. Like, fish fucking it, I'm told. I never touch the stuff. So, I try
Fish fucking it?
in water.
Oh, yes. Got
All
it.
the time. Keep that shit away from me. So and a lot of the conventional beers are just, my point being, the conventional beers taste like water, so I'm just not a fan. And
what is your like go-to beer?
I mean, if you want to do it the other way around and try another one of the local New York beers that I have brought with me, if you want to break out of that cooler, one or the other. I mean, upstate New York is where I'm generally from, and we have a beer called Saranac, is the local brewery that we dig. And this is, when I'm home, is one of my favorites. Give him, what was the one you were drinking? He already had one of them. Give him the light green one. This is the Session IPA.
Beautiful,
of
nice
the
Session
Saranac
IPA
Brewery.
from the Saranac.
Yeah. And I've smuggled several cases of it over the border because, they had a sale on 15 packs, and they're cheap, and drinking up here is kind of expensive and complicated, so let's try this out. And when I'm home, this is pretty much exclusively what I drink. I'm a fan.
It smells more bitter. It smells more bitter. It doesn't make any sense, but it's
Bitterer?
No, it's just because bitter is like it's something you do in your mouth, not your nose,
Or a verb if you make it into 2 words. Or action, whatever. Biter.
It's good. It's smooth.
Yeah.
It's smooth. I like it. Yeah.
It's not...
It's a bit more West Coasty than the last Tabarnacos, obviously.
Right. So how many times does that happen? How many times has somebody brought
Not once.
a fancy beer to you?
You are the first.
There you go.
You are the first. There you go.
Nice.
Let's talk about your on-stage personality. How did that develop?
Jeez, I don't know. I think the only go-to answer for that is usually that whenever I feel bored on stage, I just imagine everybody else is bored watching. So, I watch bands that just go through the motions and just do the exact same thing every single night. In every band I've professionally toured in, the opportunity to fuck up has been like my personal driving factor of like, in Origin, we all accept that, and we all...
It's a very complicated band. Origin.
Sure. Yeah. And the opportunity to fuck up is everywhere. It's all the time.
Every note, yeah.
And I think that makes us have more fun, and it's tighter, when you're on a click and you're, everything is in the computer, like, it just takes some of the passion out of it for us, I think. And that, even going back to the beginning, even like the Skinless years and stuff like that, is what definitely just every day should be somewhat different. Every day should be, somewhat dangerous in what you're doing, and the fact of just don't have your script written out, even though you fall into patterns.
With that being said, I want to ask you, like, do you have like pre-planned speeches, or do you just do what you want?
I'd like to do what I want. I would like to say I do what I want.
How do the bands feel about that, though?
I haven't had any complaints yet, really. I mean, even I complain about myself. I'd be like, I fucking yap too goddamn much. And I've done tours where we did this tour that was a Devastation on the Nation, which was like a proto Summer Slaughter, or like it was like competing against Summer Slaughter.
With Crisian.
You did the one with Crisian and Aeon, and it was a great tour, but we were headlining, and I was also doing merch because I just get bored and do merch. And so I would be drinking for like 12 hours before we even got on stage, because I'd just be sitting behind the merch table bored, 9 bands to go. And you can tell how fucked up I was by like the number of minutes between songs where I'm just like, let me tell you something. So we're going to do this. You're going to go over there. This is going to be great. And I've watched videos. I cringe at videos from it now. And this is only a couple of years ago. of just like, Jesus, I was just a fucking mess that just yapped for like 6 minutes in between just two random songs, to the point where John would start hitting John, the drummer of Origin,
just counting it in,
but then it would turn around and be like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm not done yet. Like,
Jesus.
yeah, so then they would complain, but I think I've gotten a little better with
Has
that.
it ever gotten to a point where you've yapped so much you had to cut songs?
I don't think so. I'd like to say no.
Like if you're opening for someone, let's say.
Oof. I mean, sometimes the yapping is important. Sometimes we need to, the yapping is important, and it builds an atmosphere. I've done maybe 3 shows in my entire life without drinking a drop of alcohol beforehand. And I'm not saying I get hammered before shows ever, really. I mean, I'm trying not to. But, you have to have some. And
it loosens me up too.
Sure.
Like, if I have a few beers,
that's when like other vocalists are like, "Oh, what are your warm ups?" You hear dudes doing like the between shows or before shows, and it's kind of goofy.
You don't warm up whatsoever. You just step
Not
up on
that.
stage.
No, absolutely not. Never.
You do some screams? No, nothing.
I don't. I feel like that hurts more than it helps, personally.
Really?
Yeah, if you ask me, because most of the times you're doing it dry, and then you're gonna like blow something out or make yourself too raw, but. And it's a lot of muscle memory, too. It's like your body kind of responds to the action more than just making the noise. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to, like, move the way I'm going to move on stage when I'm outside behind the venue, like, warming up or whatever. So I just go full bore once it starts.
How do you approach that in studio, then?
It's the same. Well, the one trick that everybody goofs on me for is that when I'm recording, even though there's like the screen and everything like that, I cup my hand to my face as if I'm holding the mic, just to have that like feeling of like I'm on stage.
I have a gift for you right now.
A word?
You are allowed to hold the mic in your hand in studio. You should do that.
I don't like that either.
No, you've done it?
Yep. We did that for the cover track we did on Omnipresent for Origin, the Kill Yourself.
I love doing that. Yeah. It was a game changer for me.
I don't like it. I don't know.
You just move around the way you want to move around.
I mean, recording is awful. It's like a painful, awful process.
You'd rather live than the studio?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
What is the worst part?
The repetition, I think, and just the self-judgment and the perfection. The low-level OCD perfectionist stuff that kicks in.
It's a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, and everything. And you're like, oh, I hear myself, breathing a little bit, and that take it out, and everybody's just like, it's fucking fine. Go, move on. Because I don't tell any other musician in any band I've ever recorded with what to do ever. So I understand that nobody else is going to be like, oh, your vocals sound like shit there, do another thing. Like, so it's all on me, and then you have that, what is it? I heard just somebody talking about it earlier today, that personality trait where the self-judgment, everything you do is wrong, and it's terrible. So... I should...
That is what studio is.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I have my guitarist who records me.
Yeah, that's very...
And he knows exactly what I can do and where I can go and what I should be doing.
There's nothing worse than the cold stare of an indifferent...
Producer? Oh, fuck, dude.
Yeah, I'm just being like, yeah, whatever.
I hate when they
do,
say,
sure.
What do you think? Dude,
exactly.
if I didn't like it, I would have said, hey, we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
I want to know if it's okay or not. Yeah.
One of the worst recording experiences I ever had was I was in a band called Mucopus, which was just like Mucopus. Yeah, upstate New York. It's actually
desecrated sphincter.
Oh, rebellious
sphincter.
Yeah. I didn't name Mucopus, but we had this weird deal where we did this like 2-month European tour, super DIY in like 2008. Attached to it was a week and a half in a studio in Czech Republic because our label was Czech, and it ended up we recorded an entire album with a producer that spoke no English. So it was all just pointing and going up,
and
down,
eye
down.
contact.
Like no, just how do you explain complex like musical nuances to somebody that like doesn't speak English and doesn't do death metal? It's just like or any metal at all. He was just completely just out of his element, and it fucking suffered for it. So.
What is the craziest thing you've ever asked the crowd to do that you regret now? The thing that went the most wrong.
Oh, geez. I once did so we used to do Silent Walls of Death, which was just like a goof where we would have people just do a wall of death completely before the song started just to make them do it. And it would always escalate into other wacky shit. So we once did a, the one thing that I was looking at, well, actually there's a couple now that I think about it. I was in Edmonton. Edmonton always goes hard for some
They're crazy.
reason.
Well, it's because they're starved.
Yeah.
Like
They
the
got
rest of
money.
Canada.
Yeah, because they're in that
Because
weird,
they're
like,
from Alberta. But it's
Yeah.
basically, the oil states of Canada. So they have money. So, yeah.
And so one time there, and I think I've done it 2 or 3 times there, but the time in particular I remember is that Milkshake IPA, man. Got
It's
me.
delicious.
We did a silent chicken fight wall of death where we had people get on each other's shoulders. And, like, I usually say that stuff is, like, half a goof and don't expect, if nobody does it, great. But this time, everybody got involved. It was a couple of years ago with Origin, and there were a lot of people. And as they were doing it, that's probably the most dangerous thing I think I've pulled off. Because that's, just for context, it's somebody has put somebody else on their shoulders, and then everybody does a wall of death, and the people on top are beating each other up just as much as the people on the bottom. So anybody could just fall and break their neck, and horribly. And it went awesome. It was like one of the sickest things I've ever seen. But another one that I just remembered, I was in Oakland, California, and I've always accidentally referred to Oakland as San Francisco just because I'm on stage.
It's across the river there.
It's like, thank you, San Francisco. And my guitar player, Paul Ryan from Origin, lives in San Francisco, and he always gets like, don't do that. They get really mad when you do that or whatever, but nobody cares really, but people notice. So the last time I was there, I made this whole spiel about like, I know I've been informed that the last several times I've been here, I've just absentmindedly referred to you as San Francisco. So why don't we do this? Why don't we have a San Francisco versus Oakland
pit.
wall of death?
Holy shit.
And that was that I even said it on stage at one point where I was like, I feel like I might be tried for involuntary manslaughter after this show because it was the most people took that shit seriously. And I used to goof, and I used to do like the black metal versus death metal wall of death when we were on tour with Marduk or 1349.
That's smart though.
The death metal always won. The black metal got trounced.
They don't like to mosh.
No, they do not. But it made it even more funny. Speaking of which, have you fucked around with the 1349's signature beer? They're like chocolate stout.
I have not, and I want to, though. I've seen it pass around.
I was on tour with them when they released it.
What is it like?
It's 13.49%.
Is it from Three Floyds?
I think so, yeah. I think that's what it was. And it was, so they debuted it at Duff's in Brooklyn one day when we were on that tour, and it was like a homework assignment finishing one. It was impossible to finish.
Because you get too drunk, or because...
No, it was just so heavy. It just couldn't do it. It was just 3/4 of the way in. It was just, you just couldn't do it. I mean, it was delicious, but it was just a fucking event. It's good. I recommend it. But I say that in like a way.
No, I'll check it out. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. Really good.
Well, if you could flash back in the past, time travel, relive one tour that you've done, what tour would that be?
Oh, shit. I always goof with people about stuff like this, like new bands going out on tour for the first time and stuff. Like a buddy of mine just went out in Europe for the very first time, and he was doing it all DIY style, and I asking me about it, and I was like, yo, the first one you do in a van and like a crappy Sprinter is always going to be the ones you have the best memories of.
That's your family. It's like you're out there with your brothers.
Yeah, and it's the struggle, and it's like, you're going to remember sleeping on the floor in of a hostel in Ireland that wouldn't let you in because you showed up at 4 a.m. and it was too late to actually, and then you miss your ferry to go to the mainland and play the show in London or whatever. Like, those are the shows you're going to remember rather than, I was on a bus, I just went to bed.
Passed out.
Yeah, you sleep your way through, like, nice tours. The tours that you suffer in are the ones that are fantastic. So, probably, I did the 2007, when I was singing for a band called Skinless, I did a tour that was Dying Fetus, Skinless, Cattle Decapitation. And it was, like, my first bus tour in Europe. That was awesome.
Lineup, yeah.
And it was my first bus tour, and I was, you get a little ego about it. It was luxury. And just what I was talking about before, that band Mucopus, that European 2-3 month run started the day the Skinless tour ended. So I went from this nice bus, professional tour, playing to like 500-600 people a night, easy, to basically touring in a minivan and in all Eastern Europe, all super fucking weird. Like Czech Republic, like Obscene Extreme was like the highlight of that tour that year, and that's the one where I have like the craziest stories from. That's the one where outside of a bar, or We stayed at a bar outside of Bratislava that had a lion living backstage. In
Like
the
a
back.
real lion.
A full-grown adult male lion. So we played this club. And we didn't have anywhere to stay, but we just bullshitted with people. And somebody was like, "Oh, come to my bar. It's called the Leo Bar. A lion lives there." And we thought they were just fucking with us. Yeah. And we showed up, and after a couple more beers, they took us out in the back, pulled open a barn door, and there was right there between, like, as far as you to me, basically was
like in a cage.
No, there was nothing between us.
No way.
Yeah, and then it was asleep, but then the dude like woke it up, and it got mad, and fucking Jesus Christ, it was the scariest thing I'd ever experienced in my life. It was so insane.
Bratislava.
In Bratislava, there is no law, I guess, but. We woke up in the morning, and apparently he like breeds. I didn't get the full story, but we were feeding it cheeseburgers and stuff, and it was much nicer in the morning. I felt bad for it, but what are you going to do? What am I going to liberate it and take it home with me?
Bring it in your luggage.
I wish I could. I didn't have the proper forms.
You are a tour monster. You tour all the time. I always pack too much. How much clothes do you pack when you go on tour?
I mean, that's something that we all work on. All professional touring musicians struggle with this. I suffer from a horrible sweatiness on stage to where like it just reaches like my belly button. Like you can see the line come all the way down my back. After like 2 songs, I'm drenched in sweat. And so I used to bring just an exorbitant amount of T-shirts. Like I'd bring like 20 shirts for like a 30-day tour, which packs everything up. Everything else, I would sacrifice other shit for that, so I could just ball it up, throw in a stinky bag, and then go on. But I'm working on it now to where I'm just sleeping in my sweaty shirt and then hoping it dries on me by body heat. So this late in the game,
you just don't hang it up. And
I'm reverting. I'm just
hang
reverting
it up
to
and
childhood.
wear it the next day.
No, it'll dry on me with my natural body heat, and it's been working out okay. Like I just did that.
So you wore this yesterday?
I did wear this yesterday
on stage.
You wouldn't know.
I didn't smell anything.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not a
You're onto something.
Not a naturally smelly dude, so it kind of works. And
what is a band that you think people are sleeping on right now?
Sleeping on? I don't know. People are pretty up on everything. The bands, I mean, I'm sure you must get a lot of the answers from like old dudes that are just like, I listen to the same fucking 10 albums I listened to 10 years ago.
Sometimes.
Kind of on that case. I mean, the only bands I know lately are bands that I like actually that I go on tour with, and
same here.
Those are the only ones that I hear anymore. But like, I'm a big proponent. Like, I push like Archspire dudes all day long. I feel like they're one of the doing the new shit.
It's interesting what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not reinventing the wheel, but it's like a new form of the wheel.
Yeah, and I like what they do vocally and stuff. Like,
very impressive.
But I don't think people are. That's the other thing. I don't think people are sleeping on them. I think people know exactly what they're getting, and it's awesome. But I don't know. It's a rough question because I don't want to just, give my boys, people I like, a push. Archspire. I'll go with that.
Jason, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
Drinking 2 beers. The Saranac.
I think I have 3 different ones in front of me right now.
IPA and the Los Tabarnacos. Milkshake IPA from Brasserie du Bas Canada. I really appreciate it. Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Thank you.
Stoked to watch you with Psychroptic tonight.
Bam. Oh, wait. We're not talking about that. Nobody's supposed to know. No. Don't turn it off. Turn it off.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Jason, such a funny dude. He is always that guy, that fill-in vocalist for all of your death metal needs. If you're a death metal band out there and your vocalist can't make it for some reason, I strongly suggest you hit up Jason. He has a secret power when it comes to filling in for other extreme vocalists, and he does an excellent job at it. So a huge shout out to Jason. It was great catching up with you, sharing some craft beer, and you get the award for the very first person on Vox&Hops to bring me a beer. So cheers to you, Jason. Stoked to see you again. Just a quick reminder to get your tickets for the Vox&Hops 1-year anniversary party. The Vox&Hops alumni, you Vox&Hops heads, Lord Worm, and myself will be at Turbo House on October 26th here in Montreal, and we'll be conducting the very first live interview You got the 9-ounce Vox&Hops branded glassware and the New England IPA Highway to Hops that I brewed in collaboration with Microbrasserie Le Fermentor from l'Assomption, Quebec. Tickets are available in the description. I'm so stoked to be with all of the Vox&Hops alumni and you Vox&Hops heads. Lord Worm, so excited. I can't wait. It's next week. I can't wait to share this experience with all of you. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you have a great weekend. And remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.